Okay, hi, welcome everyone. We're so happy that you're here. Thank you for coming to our workshop today on APA citation. We're also going to be talking about strategies for paraphrasing in your essays, and also Refworks, a really important citation tool that's available for all Cal State LA students. Thank you so much for adding the emojis into the chat. All of us are trying to kind of get back into the swing of things after a very nice and needed fall break. And so we've prepared this workshop for you today on APA citation as a way to kind of start getting ready and prepared for finals, which are just right around the corner. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I want to show you the slides that we've prepared for you. Please keep in mind that all of the slide presentation that we're going to show you today and all of the links to the various resources are going to be available for you after the workshop. And then in a few days, we'll have the actual recording posted onto our Cal State LA Library YouTube channel and also the Cal State LA Library Live research workshop website. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we actually get started. I want to encourage you, all students, to please feel free to type in your questions in the chat. We will do our best to answer them as they come in the chat. Keep in mind that we have a lot of information to present to you today. So if there's a question that you still have after today's workshop, please feel free to reach out to all of the different panelists that are here today, including myself. Our contact information will be listed in the slides. And yeah, I think that's it for the housekeeping. So our presentation is on APA citations. And we're really happy to have with us today Iris Aceves from the Center for Academic Success, Writing Wing. CAS, Writing Wing has partnered today with the University Library to present this workshop. Okay, so before we get started, this is who we are. So we have Iris Aceves. She's the lead coordinator for the Writing Wing Center, for the Writing Wing of the Center for Academic Success, also known as CAS. CAS also provides tutoring in STEM. They provide math support, they provide peer mentoring, and also writing tutoring. And again, all of the different links that you see here over here under Iris's name will be available to you when you get the presentation slides. And actually, we might have the presentation slide link already available if somebody wants to throw it in the chat. One of our other presenters today will also be Jayati Chaudhary. Jayati is a tenured librarian at Cal State LA with years and years of library experience. Jayati is my colleague at the University Library, where I also serve as a librarian. Under my name, you'll see that we have the different links to our library YouTube, our library live page, and then the slide deck is also listed there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we have 4 parts to today's presentation. We're going to talk about formatting basics. I'm going to show some examples of frequently cited scholarly sources. Then we're going to talk extensively about paraphrasing, as well as using Refworks, which is a citation tool that can help you create bibliographies. Okay, so very quickly, I just want to kind of go through the chat. Yes, so there's a question in here in the chat. Are we able to ask questions during the workshop? Yes, keep in mind that when you throw your questions into the chat, we're going to try to answer them as they're coming in. We'll also have a period at the end of the presentation to do a little bit of Q&A. We will officially end at 5:30. But if you want to stick around for a few more minutes after the presentation, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so let's take a look at what is APA citation and why use it. So the American Psychological Association, APA, Citation is used in the social sciences and in the hard sciences. And it standardizes how we write in-text citations and then creates a matching bibliographic reference at the end. There's many reasons to, cite well in APA, not only because our professors tell us to, but also because when you're citing in APA style, you're showing scholarly evidence to back up your argument or the thesis that you're trying to support in your essays. APA citation also provides evidence that you synthesize the information. This will become very evident in your paraphrasing, which we're going to discuss in our workshop. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that other people will read your essays and they're going to use your reference list to locate the sources that you use to write your papers. Similarly, you can go to the reference pages of articles that you're reading and citing to see what other scholars have used to support their papers that they're writing. All right, so just some quick basics. So APA usually has 4 different sections. You can see these on the right-hand side. And they are typed in double space. There's a 1-inch margin around the page. They use 12-point standard font, usually Times New Roman, and they're printed on regular size paper. This image you see over here has a visual representation of what a title page looks like, as well as the first page of the main body paragraphs. All of these examples were taken from the APA style blog, which you can find a link at the bottom of this slide. One of the things I want to point out to you from here is the way that you would format the running page, or sorry, the running head of your title page. Notice on your first page that you have the word running head, capitalized R, and then head, followed by a colon, and then your abbreviated title in all caps. That looks a little bit different from the page that you'll see, your first page in your body paragraphs. Notice on page 2, page 3, etc., you don't have that word running head anymore. You only have that on the first page. Keep in mind that we're going pretty quickly, so this is just an abbreviation, but you can read more about how to format your paper using this link that we have listed. Some more basics on formatting. This is an example on the right-hand side of what a reference page looks like. Notice this hanging indent. This is very important. So you want to flush your flush all the way to the left, the first line of your entry, and then the subsequent lines of your entry are indented. And I also want to point out that the authors are listed in alphabetical order. The next thing that I want to talk about in terms of formatting is I want to make a note, very important, that your in-text citations must match your references. So over on the left-hand side, you'll see that here's a citation for Evans and Stanovich. The actual reference citation on the bibliography page is located here. So that's how the in-text matches to the reference. Then there's another thing that is very important to keep in mind. And these are 2 examples of the types of sentences that we want you to write in your APA papers. The first one is called parenthetical because it includes all of the author information and the year information inside a parentheses. So over here, this is an example of a paraphrase sentence followed by the parentheses and author information. Keep in mind that when you're connecting authors, the author last names, in a parenthetical citation, you use this little symbol, which is called ampersand. The authors are followed by the comma and then the year of the publication with a close parentheses and a period. This next sentence expresses this very same idea, except it's written sort of in a different style. This one is called narrative style because it includes the author's names inside your actual citation. When you have a narrative citation, you don't use that little symbol ampersand. You actually write the word and. So senior, that's one of the author's last names, and Swaley's, followed by the year that they published this article inside parentheses, and then you go on to write your paraphrase. and then of course you close it with the period. Both of these are matching paraphrase sentences. They're saying the exactly same thing, and they are written in two different styles. Your essays in APA should have a mix of both parenthetical citation and narrative citation. And these examples of these two similar sentences, you'll see that in your reference page, this is the actual citation. This is what that citation looks like in the references page. Okay, so let me go ahead and go on to show you some examples of frequently used citations. And let me just check the chat very quickly. Okay, very good. So what if you're using an article and you're using a direct quote? So let me address, let me just say that that question was answered up here by my colleague, Jayati. So what you would have to do is you would include a page number when you're using a direct quote. Okay, so let me close that. I want to make a big point about this really wonderful handout that our librarians created. It's an APA, a very handy APA handout that you can download and start using and kind of modeling or matching your reference citations based on the examples provided in this handout. We're also using the examples of this handout in our in the next few slides. Okay, so I'm going to put most of my attention onto how to cite a reference citation for peer-reviewed journal articles. So this is what the general format for a peer-reviewed journal article that has a DOI. A DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. It's simply a sort of ID number that goes with that particular electronic article. Some articles will have a DOI, actually so many of them do now, and some of them won't. I'm going to show you next what a citation without a DOI looks like. But before I do that, let me just let me give some detail about what this citation has. So notice that you have the last name of the author, followed by a comma, followed by their first initial. Don't put their don't write their full name out, just the initial. If they happen to have two names, like a middle name, you also will put the initial there. After you do the initials, you put a comma, followed by an ampersand, and then the next author, followed by a comma, followed by their initial, period. Then you put the year of the publication enclosed in a parentheses, followed by a period, and then you move on to the title. Notice that the title, only the first word of the title is capitalized. But what if you have something like this where you have a subtitle? Notice this colon here. Then if you have a subtitle, you'll also capitalize the first word of that subtitle. All the other words, notice, are in lowercase letters. The only time you'll have to capitalize something else in here is if you have a proper noun, like the name of a city, or the name of a person. So if you have a proper noun, then you would actually have to capitalize that. Okay, the title is in regular case, and that's, followed by the name of the journal. Notice that the name of the journal, all of the words are capitalized, except for the smaller words in the middle, these sort of connecting words. And the name of the journal is also italicized, slanted over to the right. This is followed by a comma, also italicized, followed by the volume number of the journal, which is also italicized. And then if you happen to have an issue number, then you'll also put that and connect it right next to, without any space, next to the volume number. However, notice that this issue number is not italicized. So only the name of the journal title, the comma, and the volume are italicized. All of this information is then followed by a comma and then the page number range. And when you have the DOI, you want to make sure that you use the DOI information exactly as it appears in the article. Okay, so sometimes you'll have a numerical string, or sometimes you'll have an alphanumerical string. All right, so let's take a look at another example. This is another example of a APA reference citation, And this one is exactly the same, except that it doesn't have a DOI number. So if you don't have a DOI listed for the article, you can simply follow all of the other general format rules, and then you don't have to write the DOI. Okay, so from now, I'm going to kind of just make a quick note about the authors. So please notice that all of the authors here are listed in alphabetical order. They're listed by last name and initials, comma, separate the author's name. When you have two different articles by the same author, you order them by year. Okay, and you can kind of see that example here in Bago and Danae's. You'll see that these are the same two author collaborators and their articles are ordered by year. Let's say you have an article that has all kinds of different authors. If there are, when you have a whole long list of authors, count how many there are, because after the first 19 authors' names, then you would use an ellipsis in place of the remaining author's name. Again, I highly encourage you to take a look at the APA handout that we've developed for you, because that has all of the details, including how to cite online reports. So again, they're all following kind of that general logic of APA format. When you have, for instance, an online report with a corporate author or a group author, like this one, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, you'll write that first in lieu of like actual people if you have the author's byline. Another thing to keep in mind with online reports is that if they give you a date, you want to put it in this exactly format here. And then notice again how the title, only the first word is capitalized, all the rest is lowercase, followed by the link. Here's an example of a web page without any author. So again, this is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, followed by a period, the year, and then the title, and then here's the actual link. When you don't have this sort of date information, you'll just go ahead and put parentheses N period D period, and then close that parentheses followed by a period. What does ND stand for? No date. That's what you use, or that's what you would use for articles or web pages with no date. This is what a book citation looks like. It looks, and an ebook citation looks exactly the same, except that you would put the electronic link to that book or the DOI to that book. So again, these are all really quick examples that we've gotten from that handout, which I hope you will download and spend some time with. I always encourage students to spend like 20 or 30 minutes really digesting that handout and internalizing the information, because once you kind of get a handle on the actual pattern and sort of logic of APA, then it becomes easier to figure out, okay, how do I cite a book, a chapter? Okay, so now we're going to transition into paraphrasing, and I'm going to hand it over to Iris.
Thanks, Letty. And I hope my internet is okay. I've just received a message that it's a little unstable, so hopefully there won't be any problems. And welcome to our paraphrasing section. So what we have here, next slide, is a conversation that we're going to go ahead and start about what do we mean by paraphrasing in this workshop or in this presentation. So in the next slide, we're actually going to go ahead and see, I don't know, oh, there we go. Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and see the working definition that we're going to be using for paraphrasing. And so paraphrasing entails reading the work of others. So all of the journal articles, all of the web pages, everything that you're going to read in order to write your essay, understanding that research and writing it up in your essay. And if this is what we mean by paraphrasing. And if this was an essay, sorry, if this was a sentence that we were going to write in our own essay, then this definition comes from 4 sources, and you can see it at the bottom that this one definition is paraphrase is coupled together from the APA manual, by a book by Graf and Birkenstein, by another manual by Andrea Lunsford, and by the Purdue OWL web page, and specifically a section about paraphrasing in the Purdue OWL. And so if we were to use this sentence as a paraphrase in our own essay, then that's information that we would go ahead and put down here. But of course, it would look very different because, as Leticia mentioned, when we are writing an APA, we want it to be in Times New Roman. We want it to be Times New Roman with 10 or 12 point font. So it wouldn't look this big. But it's important here that we talk about what paraphrasing is. So now in the next slide, we're going to talk about what are the 3 key things that we're going to hit on during this presentation. And the first thing we're going to talk about is acknowledging the importance of reading. A lot of the complications we have with writing are coming from our reading. So we're going to acknowledge the importance of reading. We're going to recognize citations a little bit more. We got a taste of this when Letty was talking to us a little bit about citations. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, but we're going to spend most of our time here talking about how do you write it up? How do you take all of this information and then bring it down all the way into one sentence or a couple of sentences to actually add into your essay as a paraphrase. So in the next slide, we're going to go ahead and acknowledge the importance of reading. So for paraphrasing, we want to acknowledge the importance of reading because when we are writing an essay, when we're writing a literature review, when we're writing a research paper, we want to acknowledge that there are a lot of other people who have been talking about, for example, if you're in kinesiology, there are a lot of people who are talking about the importance of exercise in elementary schools, the importance of exercise in middle schools or in high schools, maybe folks who are talking about the importance of exercise at the college level, right? So we want to acknowledge that your essay is put together because you're reading the essays of a lot of other people, right? But and so by reading the essays of a lot of other people, you are putting yourself into the conversation that is this research paper that you have about potentially the importance of exercise in the elementary school, right? So that's why we want to go ahead and talk about the importance of reading and have a little nod to the importance of reading as we continue to talk about paraphrasing. So now let's look at some examples of paraphrasing, right? And in the next slide, this again, we've taken it directly from the library's APA handout. And we're going to see, as Letty mentioned to us, that there are 2 ways that when you have read a research paper or you've read a journal article, that you take that information and you paraphrase it, you put it into your own words. And here's one example. So we're going to see on my left-hand side what is labeled as a narrative citation. And here's an example of one of the librarians who read an article by LaRue, 2007, and this is what they came up with, as this is basically what LaRue is saying in their article from 2007. LaRue, 2007, identifies intellectual freedom and patron confidentiality as 2 key values held historically by libraries, right? So they've read this 10, 15, maybe 20-page paper, and they dissected it, not dissected it, and they have synthesized it into this one sentence. And the way that they started to integrate this sentence into their paper is through this, what's called a narrative citation, by bringing in the author's name and the year in the sentence that they're writing. But that's not the only way that you can do it. As Letty had mentioned earlier, you can do it another way. You can do it as something called a parenthetical citation. And so you do the same thing. You read your journal article, right? Or you read your research paper, you read something that you're going to use as research for your own paper. And then you distill that into, what is this paper about? And now it's the same information. Libraries historically value intellectual freedom and patron confidentiality, But instead of giving me the author's name and the year that they published it within the sentence, it's actually in parentheses at the end, and then we have a period there, right? So now we get to see that we have something called the narrative citation, where you have the author's last name and the year, and you put that information within your sentence. Or you see the purple section right here, the purple column, you have a parenthetical citation where you actually write your paraphrase or you write your sentence and you give me the information for the author and the year at the end of your sentence, at the end of your paraphrase, in parentheses. So those are two ways of doing it. And we're actually very familiar with these two ways of doing it. So because you all have access, you will have access to this workshop and these slides, I'm going to go ahead and head over to the next section, because we're pretty great understanding how to do it one sentence at a time, but we need to go ahead and see how you can do it within an entire paragraph, right? So this is information that I've taken directly from the APA manual. And this is figure 8.3 of the APA manual. And what we're seeing here is that we have a section here where we are using both types, both the parenthetical and the narrative citations within our paragraphs. So imagine that you're writing this, and the first time that you are going to give me information about the authors that you are using is in this first sentence, Kohler 2016, right? And so you are going to let me know Kohler 2016, examined, blah, 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 right? You have this information. And right now we're just gonna focus on the information in bold. So don't worry about reading what's on the slide. So your first sentence is going to be Kohler 2016, because you, as the author of your essay, want to let me know as your professor or another reader that this is information that you have gathered from this Kohler 2016 article. But it's kind of repetitive to say Kohler 2016, Kohler 2016, Kohler 2016 after each paragraph. So what the APA manual is allowing you to do, and this is coming, wait, can you see it? A little tiny bit, you can't see it that much, but this is coming directly from the APA manual. What the APA manual, especially in figure 8.3, tells you that you can do is, as long as you only have one Kohler article, right? Because remember, your citations within your essay, your narrative citations, have to match your references page at the end. So here it lets me know that there's only one Kohler who wrote an article in 2016 that you're using. So now the next sentence is still about Kohler, but you're not going to put the year. You're going to have some variety because it's still going to be evident that it's coming from this 2016 article. And now the third sentence that we have, we're going to add a little variety. We know the preferred pronoun for this particular author, so we're going to have a he, right? So this is 3 different ways that you can make sure that your professor, your reader knows that this information is coming from an article. You're paraphrasing, you're putting the information from the article in your own words, but you're adding a little bit of variety so that you don't have to repeat Kohler 2016 all the time. But a lot of you are writing essays where you don't just read one journal article, you have to read 5 or 10 journal articles, right? So now let's look at the last sentence here. And this is a really good example of how, when maybe you want to go ahead and paraphrase, you're synthesizing information from one journal article and another journal article in the same sentence. How do you do that? Here's an example of how you do it. So we see the last sentence in figure 8.3 coming from the APA manual, these findings in combination with similar research. So we know we're still talking about Kohler 2016, but the moment you as an author write something like with similar research, so you're talking about something else, now I get to see in the parenthetical citation, I'm still talking about Kohler 2016, but I've now brought in a Reginald 2015 article. So that one sentence lets me know that you've taken parts of the Kohler article, parts of the Reginald article, and both of those are in this particular sentence that you have. And in each of these sentences, it's very evident for me, if I were your professor, or if you were going to submit this to publication, it's very evident that each of these sentences are paraphrased or summarized. We're going to use that word interchangeably. It's a paraphrase from a journal article, right? You're not saying that you came up with this evidence. You're saying this is the information I understood or I learned from Kohler and from Reginald, right? And this will go ahead and give you that variation, because as Letty mentioned earlier, you want to go ahead and have narrative citations and parenthetical citations to help you with the variety of your sentences. And now you get to see it in a paragraph form here from something that's coming directly out of the APA manual and the 7th edition of the APA manual. So the next thing, and that I often get asked is, well, how do I take something from that's original text and actually distill it into one sentence paraphrase or something else, right? So here we have an example, and don't bother reading the original text. We don't really need to pay attention to that. The idea here is this visual that we have an original text. That's a lot of information, but a paraphrase is going to allow us to distill it into maybe one sentence or a couple of sentences, right? So here we have 2 paragraphs, and we're going to distill it into one sentence, right? So here we have Graf and Birkenstein 2010 argue that the key to good writing is having a handy set of moves to deliver information. So what this was is that I read the original text, and then I used a couple of strategies to figure out what does the original text mean, and I came up with a sentence that was a paraphrase of the original text. And I can write it in a narrative citation style, Graf and Birkenstein 2010, blah, 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 blah. Or I can give you the information, blah, 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 and then open parentheses, Graf and Birkenstein 2010, close parentheses, period, right? And so those are 2 different ways of doing it. So what are the strategies that I used in order to go from a lot of original text, distilling it to one sentence? Here you go. Our first strategy is just to summarize, right? So here we have the original text on the left-hand side with a piece of paper. If you have printed this out, or if you're using notes, just summarize. What does this paragraph tell me? What does that paragraph tell me? And in that way, by summarizing, you're also understanding the information, because remember, our working definition of a paraphrase is not just to write things in your own words, which is the typical definition you see very often. It is to read and understand what you're reading and then writing it in your own words, right? So summarizing helps you understand what you're reading. So that's our first strategy. Let's go over to our second strategy in the next slide. So our second strategy in the next slide is to observe key words. And so sometimes these could be verbs that pop up very often. Sometimes these are words that are repeated. And in this particular example, I've grayed out most of the words of the original text. And in bold, I've made some of the other words that repeat pop up by having them in bold. So when you're reading your own papers, when you're reading your journal articles, look to see, is there a word from the title of the essay that gets repeated within the journal article? Is there a word from the title of each of the paragraphs or each of the sections that gets repeated? What gets repeated? Because if it's repeated, that means the author thinks it's important for you to really understand that information. And by repeating words, they're actually helping you understand this information, right? So that is strategy number 2. When you're reading, make sure you look at key words and keep an eye out for those. So this takes us to strategy number 3. And strategy number 3 is a simple, just underline or highlight What is the thesis of this journal article? What is the purpose of this journal article? When you find the thesis of the journal article, underline it. When you find it, underline it or highlight it and really understand what this is, because that's going to help you understand the reading and will then help you write your paper much more easily. It'll allow you to write your essay in a better way. So once you found your thesis, you can underline it or you can highlight it, whatever you prefer to do. This is going to take us to strategy number 4. And strategy number 4 is when you are reading your original text, and maybe even when you're reading the thesis or the purpose of your article, cover the paper, right? So if you're reading a textbook or if you're reading a journal article, you've printed it out, cover it with your hand, fold it in half. If you're reading it online, minimize the screen so that you are blocking the original text and then you are verbalizing or typing what's the information in my own words. And because you are blocking the text, you're not going to copy any of the words from the original, right? Because you've blocked it, you've minimized it, you put your hands on top of it, right? So the words that you type or the words that come out of your mouth are going to be the words that are in your own words. And that's going to diminish the possibility of plagiarism. And so that's going to be one of the key strategies that I think are one of the best ones here. It's a strategy that's been passed down by a couple of my professors and one that is advocated by the Purdue Owls paraphrasing section and how do you paraphrase that we went ahead and we reviewed in preparation for this workshop. And the 5th strategy and the last slide for my presentation is this idea that you can also work using templates, right? So very often we will have sentences, as we've seen throughout this presentation or throughout the section of my presentation, where we had something like LaRue 2007 identified, or LaRue 2007 explained. So that's a type of template because you have the name of the author and then the year and then a verb, right? And very often in APA, your verbs are going to be in the past because they explained something or identified something, or then they researched something, right? Or they experimented on something. So that's a pretty easy template that you can use, but there are a lot of different ways that you can integrate the words of other people into your own essay. Because remember, when you're reading all of these journal articles, when your professor asks you to write a research paper with 5 or 10 journal articles, you are putting yourself into the conversation with all of these other authors. You can do it in a number of different ways. You can begin with the author, the year, and a verb, or you can say as the prominent scholar and the author and the year and a verb, right? Or according to author and the year, blah, 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 right? These are different templates that you can go ahead and use, and they're adapted from the Graf and Birkenstein's template section in their book. And you could go ahead and use these in your paper. But the most important thing is that you are going to go ahead and read the information, really try to understand it. And when you understand it, it'll be easier for you to paraphrase it, to put the information that you're reading into your own words. Because as we will find out next from Jayati, there's going to be really great resources to help you find these articles. So Jayati, take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Shayati Chaudhary, and if you feel overwhelmed with all the APA rules you need to follow, here I am bringing you a solution, an online reference tool that can really make your research life easier. The name of the online research tool is Refworks. There are many online free tools available, but this one is a subscription-based database that we subscribe to from Cal State L.A. and you will all have access to it and all the sophisticated features that it offers. Okay, so next slide please. So Refworks offers you many options. It is a software that you can use to store, organize, and generate your citation in different citation style. Also collaborate with a researcher for your research project. So the first step to that you 100 databases from Cal State L.A. library, and you can use any databases, and you will be able to export citation from those databases to your Refworks account. You can even export citation from your Google Scholar account to your Refworks account. Once you save your citation from in your reference account, then you will be able to organize them based in different folders. If you are taking many classes, you can organize them by your different classes. If you are using APA for one citation, I know I'm getting the message. I'm getting the message that my internet is unstable. So I'm just hoping that you all can hear me okay. I'll be here to answer any question through chat once I finish my presentation, okay? So don't worry, I'll be here to answer all your questions. So once you create your reference, save your citation in different folders, you can just create your bibliography in APA citation. And Refworks also offers citations in many other citation style, over 600 citation styles. So for any of your classes, if you are using MLA, Chicago citation style, you can use Refworks to get citation into different citation style also. Last but not least at all, Refworks offer a right-hand side feature that will not, in that way, you can embed Refworks to your Microsoft Word account and into your Google Docs account. So when you are writing your paper, it's not that Refworks will create the bibliography or references page for you. It will also insert the in-text citation in both ways, in parenthetical and in narrative style for you. So let's get to the next slide. First thing you all need to do, create an account. So to create an account, you need to go to the refworks.proquest.com, and again, please use your Cal State L.A. email and follow the prompts to create an account. Once you create an account, the next step would be, next slide please, to export citation or add or save citation within your Refworks account. So here I have given you screenshots of 3 most popular databases from Cal State L.A. library, one search page, EBSCOhost database page, and ProQuest databases page, okay? So if you are searching in one search, if you find a book, journal article, newspaper article, you just need to click on the title of the item, and then you will get the Refworks menu to export your citation to Refworks directly. That's really easy. If you are using EBSCOhost databases, you will get the second screenshot, the number 2 I have on the bottom of the page. You need to click on the article title page to go to the full article level page, and there you will find the export option. And for most of the databases or many of the databases, you will find this export link. And once you click on the export link, you will be able to export your citation to Refworks. For ProQuest databases, it's a bit different. You can get a save icon. You need to click on the save button, and from there, from the drop down option, you can select Refworks and export your citation or save your citation to Refworks. You can also, as I mentioned it to you earlier, I know many of you are Google Scholar fan, you are able to export citation from Google Scholar as well. Next slide, please. So once you exported your citation, next you are going to generate bibliography. So this is how your Refworks screen would look like once you import all the citation. And on the left side, if you added many citation within your Refworks account, you may want to organize them into different folders and then select a folder, select all the citation, and then if you click on the top menu bar, the quotation mark sign that you see, yes, that's the create bibliography symbol, and you can click on create bibliography, and then it will show you what citation style you want to follow. So select APA. Refers offer many citation styles. So if you do not see APA, type APA, show you APA. Style 7th edition. And then my second, copy this page and paste it into your references section. That's pretty easy, right? Now I'm going to next.
Jayati, I can't hear you and wasn't sure, do you want me to be on this slide?
Yes.
Is this the right slide
Yes.
you want me to be on,
So
Jayati?
next I'm going to show you how you can know the previous one. Yes, so now I'm going to show you how you can integrate Refworks Citation Manager in your Microsoft computer, and you can add Refworks as an add-on. So once you open a Microsoft Word document, you can just click select insert from the top menu bar, and then if you click on add-on, an add-on window will pop up. And then if you search for Refworks Citation Manager, you will see the Refworks Citation Manager add-on. And then if you click on the add menu, it will be added immediately to your Microsoft Word document. On my second screenshot, you can see that it has been added as menu item RCM on my Microsoft Word account. So miniature Refworks, when you are writing your paper, as you can see on the screenshot, you can just select the right citation and hover onto that citation, and it will give you option to cite that or insert the in-text citation, which is super cool. So you can click on the cite this and it will insert the in-text citation within that area of your paper, and it will also be at the end of the paper. If you are following parenthetical citation or narrative citation, you have option to edit your citation from this edit this option. Okay, so this is a super useful tool. Please use it. You can continue to add citation within your research paper. Yes, so once you add, I'm going to repeat myself. So once you click on the RCM or Reference Citation Manager, all your citation in your Refworks account will pop up as a sidebar in your Microsoft Word document. Okay, so now while you are writing your paper, you have this. So once you click on cite this option, so it will insert the in-text citation. If you are following a parenthetical citation or narratives, you can click on the edit this option and you can edit your in-text citation. It will also insert the references at the end of your paper, which is super useful because you can continue to add citation within your research paper, and it will automatically arrange all your citation in alphabetical order, because as Letty mentioned, you need to have your APA citation in alphabetical order, and Refworks will do that for you. However, I do want to mention that this is still a machine generated with some minor flaws within the citation guide that we shared with you, and make quick changes to the citation to make it perfect. So the huge advantage is that you do not need to start from the scratch to get your APA citation. Refworks can generate your APA citation instantaneously. You can just consult the APA style manual to make it perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So here I'm going going to briefly describe you how you can add Refworks to your Google Docs. If you are not a Microsoft Word fan and you'd like to use Google Docs instead, you can integrate Refworks to your Google Docs as an add-on, just like Microsoft Word. So if you open up a Google Docs document, you just need to click on the add-ons option and then click on get add-on from the drop-down option and search for Refworks, and then ProQuest Refworks will pop up, and then you will add it within your Google Docs. So it will then automatically, you will be able to see all your Refworks citation on the sidebar, just like Microsoft Word in your Google Docs account, and you will be able to insert your in-text citation as well as get your bibliography within your research paper while you are writing your paper. So please use this tool. Next slide, please. I'm giving you a quick overview of this useful tool. There is a lot more to learn about this tool. So I have given you on this slide, you can see the research guide I have created from where you can get more information about Refworks. I have a separate PowerPoint presentation on Refworks where you will find step-by-step guide on how to use Refworks. I also included URLs for the 2 video tutorials, for how to export citation to Refworks or how to integrate Refworks in Microsoft Word or Google Docs. So if you follow these steps, you will be able to use it easily. I'm sorry that internet connection was unstable today, but you also have my contact information. So if you need additional help, I'll be here after my presentation. I'm at the end of my presentation. I'll be here to answer any question you may have. But if you have additional question, need more in-depth help, you are most welcome to contact me by email. I do hold office hours every week, so I'll be more than happy to meet with you all. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Jayati. And students, please keep in mind that our contact information is on slide 2 of this presentation. So maybe with that, what we can do is I will stop my share, or actually, I'm going to stop my share and then show you slide 2 of the presentation. And we have a little bit of time for Q&A now. I just wanted to say that I think this is a perfect example of kind of how to press on. All of us are in this situation where, you know, we're either working from home or studying from home, or perhaps we're at our jobs, or we're on campus. We're all in all kinds of different places. And, you know, sometimes things like, you know, our internet connectivity is not 100%, for instance, or some other, you know, responsibility is like pressing on us, but we continue on. And that was really one of the purposes of preparing our collaborative workshop with the writing wing of CAS and the library, was to kind of put all kinds of stuff in one hour package for you, with all of the links, all of the slides, and the video as well, for you to kind of come back to. And so with that, let me go find, let me pull up slide number 2, and we'll go ahead and take some questions right now. Students, please feel free to use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, or throw your questions into the chat. Okay, I see one right here. I would like to ask a question about how to do in-text citation from a source such as National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics. Okay, very good question, Nelia. So that would be one of those in-text citations where you have a corporate author. You don't have an individual author or authors. So you would do the same exact thing. You would use either a parenthetical citation or a narrative citation form. And instead of the name of the author, you would put the name of the corporation or the institution. In your case, it would be National Association of Social Workers and Code of Ethics. Does that kind of make sense? You could throw a thumbs up if you would like. Okay, very good. All right, so we're ready for some more questions.
I
We
want
see
to
another-
add, can I add one more thing? Because you
Yes.
mentioned about National Social Worker Association, that I only mentioned about how to export citation from different databases. If you are using different websites, you can just add the save to network, save to Refworks in your browser, and then Refworks will extract the data from any website, and then you can generate citation from different websites also by using Refworks.
Thank you, Jayati. I see another student unmuted. Please feel free to unmute if you would like and ask your question. Ty? Or anybody else who would like to ask a question? One of the questions that we often get is, for instance, when you have like a paper and you want someone, can you check my APA reference citations? I want to make a huge plug for that handout that we've been sharing and talking about over and over again. Why? Because that handout, which we're going to plug again by giving the link to it, that has all kinds of examples for how to cite books, ebooks, web pages or websites that don't have an author or a date. But also keep in mind that the real deal reference, like the real deal place that you want to kind of look at to double check your citations, is the actual APA manual, which we have at the library. So I'm going to share my screen very quickly as we're kind of going through.
And
Yeah,
Leslie,
going through these questions.
Sorry, as you're looking at that share screen button, I do want to go ahead and mention that the writing tutors at the Center for Academic Success will not go line by line through your references page to check for your references. So that's not something that they do. They will work with you to make sure that the way that you are writing your paraphrases integrates well, there's cohesion within your paper. That's what they'll do, because there are so many, like the wonderful Refworks that we have been looking at, that you can incorporate into your Microsoft Word document or into your Google Docs that does that work already. So the writing tutors won't do that, but you can bring your essays to the writing wing of CAS, and they will look at the flow of the paper itself.
To meet with somebody, is it online or is it also like person face to face?
Very good question, Michelle. So for meeting with a writing tutor, we have in-person appointments and online Zoom appointments.
So when it's in that case, we can like email them our paper so they can see it on their end, or just share our screen?
It would be a sharing of the screen. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
On the librarian side, all of the librarians have what is called reference consultation. So in a second, we're going to share the link to how to find the librarian that goes with your subject area or your major. You're so welcome to email them directly and say, hello, so, Leti Terrones, for instance, me. I'm a student in this class and I wanted to set up a consultation or like a time to meet to talk about my research. And then during that consultation, again, we won't go, step by step to double check your APA citations, because part of the thing too that we want to emphasize is that really like internalizing those rules of how to cite, how many authors to list. For instance, in the chat right now, there's a question about using part of a table, but then adapting it. All of those specific rules are available for you either in the OWL Purdue website. They're, the quick sort of like the big rules are in our little handout. And then all of those details for answering those specific questions are in that APA style manual, the guide. APA also has an APA style blog. I highly recommend that website because there's actual like questions you can type in and they have like the answer to that very specific question. So for Philip, putting that, to answer your question, anytime that you're pulling information that does not come from you, you didn't invent that, you didn't think about that, you didn't sort of put those ideas together, you must cited, either through a direct quote or even better through a paraphrase, because paraphrasing is more valued than a direct quote. Why? Because it shows that you've synthesized, and how Iris was discussing so much, that you understand the content. And that's the hard part. That's the part that requires you to spend more time. And, you know, that's just the truth of it, is that you have to put in the time. You have to carve out the time. You know, sometimes you have to make some like decisions like, okay, my family, I'm not available right now from this hour to this hour. Why? Because I'm dedicating this time to my, you know, to my studies. And that's kind of, you know, what you do in higher education, whether you're an undergraduate, and definitely when you're a graduate student, you're really training in your discipline. You're really gaining the knowledge and skills. So we're not gonna go, you know, detail by detail on your APA citation, but we're gonna give you the logic of it. Here's the example of it, and then we're gonna turn it over to you for you to, you know, put it into use. Okay, and then thank you so much to Philip. I think Iris found the exact page of the APA manual where you're gonna find that information. As we're doing that, let me go ahead and share my slides, because I wanna show two more things. And oh, sorry about that. Okay, throw me a thumbs up if you can see my slides. Can you all see that? Or let me know through a mute. Okay, very good. Okay, so the last slide in the slide deck has all of those links to everything that we used in this presentation, including where to download sample papers. That would be really excellent, because then you can match your paper, the formatting, to the sample papers. We also have a template that has a professional paper here. You can also download the APA citation, and then how to paraphrase the Purdue guide. Now I'm going to move it all the way over to slide number 2, because this is where you can take a screen grab. Let me see, sorry, I'm gonna try to go do this instead, because it's too much to go page by page. So, okay, so I want to encourage you to take a snap of this slide, because it has our email addresses and then the links as well to all of the different resources that we shared. Okay, so I'll leave that up for a second. And then Kelsey, thank you for putting the slideshow there as well. You can download the slideshow from that link. All right, so let's see. Do we have any other questions? Students, please feel free to unmic. We can stay on for a few more minutes. Our presentation is sort of officially over, but you're welcome to stay on to ask some questions.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You know, I also want to say one last thing, if I may. Please don't wait until the night before your paper is due to start doing everything, because then one, you're going to cause yourself a lot of stress. And then two, all of those little details about, you know, does the period go here, or does the parentheses go there, or do I italicize this or that? All of those questions that require attention and detail, you just won't have time for them because it's due tomorrow. So don't put yourself in that situation. Instead, please, you know, give yourself a lot of time. We have like a couple of weeks before our finals. So right now is the time to really start working on your paper. I think I saw a question from Emil. Go ahead, go ahead and, or Emily, I didn't catch the name, but go ahead and Emily, yes, go ahead and unmic or unmute Emily, so you can ask your question.
Okay, thanks. So are there like librarians for each and every major, or just like a few?
Librarians for each and every major. So let me actually let me find that link for you. Okay, that's the one I was supposed to find and I didn't find it. So let me find that.
Okay, thanks.
So for instance, we have librarians that, they concentrate in the social sciences. We have librarians that concentrate in arts. So all of those different subject areas, there's a subject librarian that is that's assigned. Okay, so hold on just a second. I'm still pulling that up. Meanwhile, is there another question?
Leticia,
Yes.
did you talk about the subheadings before?
No, we didn't cover subheadings in this webinar because one of the things that we wanted to emphasize was just sort of like these are like the big main rules. But to find information about how to format your subject headings, or sorry, your subheadings, I would recommend that you go to the website that's linked in the formatting slides, that I think it's like slide 4 or something like that from our slide deck. That will have information on how to do your subheadings. So actually, Kelsey, I don't know if that was you sharing the screen.
Wait, but excuse me.
I was sharing the screen for subject librarians.
Oh,
so I
Jayadi,
sent link to the chat now.
I was going to say, do you want to kind of show, if you want to share your screen again to show like how to get to the subject librarians?
Yeah, sure. So it is from library's homepage. If you click on the research, and then from the drop down option, if you select research help, here is the link for subject librarians. And then it will be broken down by different subject areas. So based on your subject area, you can select your college and then your subject. We have NSS is a big college, so we have many librarians under NSS. And so you can select your librarian, and then you will find their contact information, their email address, phone number, and also option to make an appointment with them.
Thank you so much for showing that, Jayadi.
Sure.
I want to address a question in the chat about what is, for instance, if your instructor is asking you to do citation APA style, middle of page of a research article summary. So I'm not really sure because I'm not your professor, right? So my recommendation would be to ask during office hours, say, oh, Professor so-and-so, I was a little confused about what you mean by this. That would be the best thing, because then you would get the direct, exactly answer. What I'm thinking, possibly, okay, I don't know if this is right, but oftentimes when you search articles, and we've had workshops on this, how to search articles using the databases. When you search an article in a database, when you click on the title of it, usually what will happen is that you'll get a summary of the article or the abstract of the article. The summary or the abstract will tell you what's the article about, how did the researchers do the research, what methods did they use, did they interview, was it a survey, what sort of, did they do a textual analysis, what sort of method did they use to pull the data, and then how did they analyze it and what did they find? Usually the abstract will tell you, what the article is about. It could be that your professor wants you to look at some of these article abstracts and then cite them using APA. So again, remember, the main rule of paraphrasing or citing is if the information is not coming from your own mind, your own synthesis, your own thinking, if you pulled that idea from someone else, or if you're quoting an idea directly from someone else, you must cite it. And then following the APA format, author, last name, first initial, followed by the year in parentheses, followed by the title, all lowercase except for the first letter of the title or subtitle or proper noun, followed by the journal, or the press of the book, followed by the DOI, right? All of that little string of logic, APA logic, then you would use that APA citation style to cite an article abstract or an article summary. I hope that answers the question. And then if you're still not sure, then, you know, we've talked a lot about like making appointments with librarians. That would be an excellent question to ask using the research help link at the library. Another thing that you can do, keep in mind, if you're sort of working, you know, at different hours during the day, you can always use our instant chat where you would be directed to a student research consultant. That person, your student peer, would be able to maybe help like understand the question and then kind of find you the quick answer. But if you need more in-depth help, that's when it's so important to consult with a librarian. Okay, so I think we're up to 5:45. So I think we're gonna go ahead and close the session now. Thank you so much. I know that we threw a lot of information at you. We had some like internet interference. I was also trying to like, how do I learn my new computer I couldn't get to the chat, all the stuff that's happened, but we pulled through it. You have all the links and we're ready to help you to really push through, you know, the final 2 weeks of finals and get you to winter break, which is coming up soon.
Excuse me,
Yes.
is this one next week or no?
This is our last workshop of the fall semester, but we also, I'm going to ask if we can have the link to the Library Live website and also the Cal State L.A. YouTube channel, because both of those sites have all of the workshops that we've done this semester, and even some workshops that we did last semester, and all of the resources. So the videos are there for you to watch when you have time, when, you know, even in between classes or when you're running an errand or something like that. All right, so thank you so much to Kelsey, who just posted right now the link to our Cal State LA YouTube, because that's really where you're going to find all of the links. And then next semester in the spring, when we see you all back in the spring, we'll have a whole new set of workshops. So please feel free to let me know. You know, you have my email. You can always let me know. Hey, Letty, I think you should do a workshop on this or that. Okay, so let me put my email here. So you can let me know what kind of workshop you would like for us to develop in the spring. All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of the month and December coming up, and we'll see you in our consultations and in our writing tutoring hours.